Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
What is this thing? Alright, you talk me into it. Welcome back. This is part 13 of What Happened to the Alien and Predator series. Aliens Colonial Marines, made by Gearbox Software. Oh boy. From the beginning, the game was advertised as being canon to the Alien movies. That's right, this game isn't just a what-if scenario like all the other Alien games. This actually is supposed to be the official sequel to the Aliens movie. The game is set only a few weeks after Aliens, following a unit of Colonial Marines who are sent to Hadley's Hope to investigate the disappearance of our characters from the end of the movie. And when I first heard that, I got really worried. Video game tie-ins to movies have always had a rough history. For every one GoldenEye, there's about 500 ETs. People have tried to make video game sequels to movies before, and the results have always been hit and miss. On one hand, you might get something like the Ghostbusters game, which was great because playing that game actually felt like you were playing the long-awaited third movie. But on the other hand, most of the time you'll end up with pieces of shit like Enter the Matrix, a game that was so bad, it actually hurt the movies by association. And yeah, I'll get to that one another time. So this game is supposed to be the official sequel to Aliens. However, you'll notice I use the term supposed to be because the game contradicts the events of the movies so much that it just quite frankly can't be canon. In Aliens, it was established that the atmospheric processor was meant to explode into a vapor cloud the size of Nebraska, destroying all of Hadley's Hope. Yet in the game, the facility is still intact. In Alien 3, the company tried to capture Ripley because she had the last remaining alien specimen inside her. All the other aliens were killed during the processor explosion. However, in this game, there are aliens absolutely all over the place, with Weyland-Yutani rubbing their grubby mitts all over them. It makes no sense. But the most glaring contradiction is the fact that in the game, it is shown that Hicks, who died at the beginning of Alien 3, is somehow still alive. And what's most insulting is the fact that even the characters in the game realize this makes no sense. When one of the characters asks Hicks how it's possible that he's still alive when we saw him die, Hicks just responds, "Oh, that's another story." And then the game just leaves it at that, with no further explanation. So essentially, this is the game's writers saying, yeah, we know this makes absolutely no sense, but fuck you, we're doing it anyway. Now, in all fairness, Hicks's survival was eventually explained in some post-release DLC, but that's still not good enough. Firstly, such an important plot point should have actually been a part of the game, not as DLC you have to pay an additional $15 for months after the game's release. That'd be like if a movie had a plot hole that was only explained in the special features of the DVD. And secondly, the explanation for Hicks's survival in the DLC is so half-assed that it comes off as nothing more than a piece of contrived fan wank that ends up raising more questions than it does answers. Look, I know Hicks's death in Alien 3 was a cop-out. Everyone hated it. It was cheap and disrespectful to the character. But this is even worse. This is even more disrespectful to not only Hicks's character, but the continuity of the series. And besides, if you're going to blatantly break canon like this, why not bring Ripley back for fuck's sake? She's the one I'd actually want to play as. So if this game obviously contradicts the movies, why did everyone making the game at Gearbox keep saying that it was canon? My guess is either A, they don't actually know what the word canon means and they're just using it as a marketing buzzword, or B, they knew that advertising the game as being canon would sucker in more fans to buy it. Well, it's the only reason I bought the game, so I guess it worked. And it's not just that the plot of the game contradicts the film series, the game is just plain badly written. The story of the game is the exact same plot that has been used in just about every other Aliens book, comic, video game, and fanfiction ever made. You know the one. Weyland-Yutani have set up a facility where they are doing unethical experiments on the aliens. But then the aliens break loose and the Marines are sent in to clean up. But the Marines are betrayed by Weyland-Yutani, who didn't tell them what's going on. For the life of me, I can't figure out why the Alien Expanded Universe has always been fixated on this one plot, when there is so much untapped potential with this franchise. And the plot of the game is completely paper thin. It's nothing more than a series of excuses to link together shooting sequences in the game. Walk here, shoot this. Now walk over there and shoot that. Don't think about who you're shooting or why. We wouldn't want to do anything profound now, would we? Things happen in the game without clear cause or motivation. Weyland-Yutani hold Hicks captive for a long part of the game and are torturing him for information. Of course, it's never really made clear exactly what this information is or why it's so important. I mean, what the hell would have Hicks known anyway? Hicks was just a dumb grunt in Aliens. He didn't know shit. At one point, Weyland-Yutani mercenaries show up right out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they and your squad mates start shooting the shit out of each other without even a word between them. I was left standing in the middle of the gunfight going, wait, who are you people? Why are we fighting? I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Look, can't I just buy you a beer and we just talk about this? And the game ends on a weak cliffhanger that I suspect only exists not because that's where they wanted the game to end, but because they ran out of the time and money to design more levels. The characters in the game are completely one-dimensional and boring. All of their personalities can be summed up in 2 points. They are Marines, and they say "Oorah" a lot. Seriously, they have no personality. In every single cutscene, they just stand around, mumble some vaguely patriotic cliche about how Marines don't quit or don't leave a man behind. Then they say "Oorah." That's the extent of their characters. I don't even remember their names. And the character models are so badly animated that they have less expression than the bloody Thunderbirds. I know I've gone on for a while about the story, but for Christ's sake, if the game's supposed to be the official sequel to the film, the least they could do is put some fucking effort into it. But it's not just the story of the game. The game itself is just badly designed. Yeah, the gameplay is bad for all the typical reasons every other critic has mentioned. What with bad controls, long load times, overly linear level design, a difficulty curve that randomly alternates between being too easy and frustratingly hard. But more to the point, I think the game has some deeper, more fundamental conceptual flaws that doomed it right from the start. Firstly, there's the fact that the game is a first-person shooter, and as far as I'm concerned, that's already a problem. See, first-person shooters are a genre of games that are at their core about empowerment. They are games where you play as a big tough guy given a big powerful gun, so you can go around shooting wave after wave of enemies, all with the intention of making you feel like a badass. The problem here is that the Alien movies are not about empowerment. The Alien movies are horror movies. They are about disempowerment. What an Alien game should be is a survival horror game. Imagine something like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but with aliens in it, where you have no weapons and your only defense is to run and hide. Or if you have to add action into it, make it something like Dead Space, but with xenomorphs instead of necromorphs. Alien should be a great survival horror game, but instead we have this generic shooter that has more in common with Call of Duty of all things than it does any of the Alien movies. And that brings me to another point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but surely the whole point of playing an Alien-themed first-person shooter is that you're going to shoot aliens, yes? I mean, that's the whole reason why you'd play the game. So why is the overwhelming majority of the time in this game spent shooting enemy soldiers like every other first-person shooter ever made? And what's most infuriating about this is that the game has been designed as a cover shooter, yet you're given no cover mechanics. Enemies throughout the game will take cover, but often I'd crouch behind a crate in the vain hope for protection, only to find my fat head sticking out over the top to get shot off. Well, at least you would get shot if the AI in this game weren't so fucking stupid. They're so dumb you can shoot mercenaries like 6 times in the head and they won't even think to move themselves out of the way. The aliens in the game are even worse. All they do is just run straight at your gun sights like ducks lining up in a shooting gallery. The alien's acid blood doesn't even hurt you. You can catch facehuggers with one hand, and if an alien does manage to pounce on you, you can just kick them off. They're pathetic. They're no threat whatsoever. The game doesn't even feel like it's been finished. Seriously, the game is full of so many bugs that I am genuinely surprised it made it through certification. You can walk through other characters, textures pop in and out, if they even load in the first place, enemies get stuck in walls, there's screen tearing, the sound will randomly drop out, the fucking thing will even freeze up and crash every now and then. One of the worst examples was when I was in the final level of the game, running around looking for a spaceship. I couldn't find it because it was invisible because its fucking textures didn't load. There's a power loader fight in the game which is just plain broken. You put in a power loader to fight some large boss alien, much like how Ripley battles against the Queen at the end of the film. However, they've made it so you can only throw punches. You can't block or dodge. So instead of it being like, say, Punch-Out, where you have to tactically decide which moves to use, here you just throw punches randomly and see who runs out of health first. All the while, you're getting ganked by little aliens who swarm all over you from the sides. If you try to fight the little aliens, the big one kills you. If you try to fight the boss, the little ones kill you. All the while, your squad mates just stand around watching because their AI is too stupid to help. It's a mess. It really is a mess of a game. And I'm calling it now. I'm willing to bet that this game's stupid cliffhanger ending is never going to be picked up on by any sequel. After the game's scathing reception from critics, gamers and Alien fans alike, which must have lost them consumer confidence, Sega's not going to want to do business with Gearbox again. There's not going to be a sequel to this. Well, at least there shouldn't be a sequel. It makes me really sad to see that this game became one of the top-selling games of the year. But a few months earlier, Spec Ops: The Line, which had the single greatest story I have ever witnessed in a video game, flopped because apparently gamers don't want to see their medium evolve as an art form. People often ask me why I don't give numerical ratings in my reviews. Well, here's a rating for you. I rate Aliens Colonial Marines Spec Ops: The Line out of 10. Meaning you should throw this to the shitter and go buy Spec Ops: The Line instead. Fuck this for a game of soldiers. Hey everyone, are you sick of how Hollywood is always using shitty CGI for all the special effects in movies these days? Well then check out the trailer for Harbinger Down. It's an independent monster movie that I helped to fund through Kickstarter. It's being made by Amalgamated Dynamics. They're the blokes who did the special effects for all of your favourite monster movies, from the Alien movies, to Starship Troopers, to even Tremors. And get this, all the monsters in the movie are created entirely through practical effects. There is no CGI in this movie. I really want this movie to be a success in order to send a message to Hollywood that we want more practical effects in our movies. So please, click the link below and show Harbinger Down your support.